Welcome, everybody, to Web and Beyond Live. I'm Ray Sidney Smith, President of W3 Consulting and Managing Director of W3C Web Services, and I'm coming to you live on February 4th, 2021. And so W3C Web Services, as you may or may not know from prior shows, is our WordPress and managed WordPress and web hosting domain name registration services for small business. And Web and Beyond Live is really my chance to come to you each week and discuss topical and timely issues relating to small business digital marketing, productivity technologies, and all of those things really related to each other. And so it's really all the things I believe you as small business owners need to be successful marketing and managing on the web and beyond today. And so feel free to ask questions in the live chat if you're there. After the fact, feel free to email me through the podcast or connect with me via the podcast and or come to our website and submit questions that way. And so if you're watching the replay, you can always leave questions in the comments also. I've had a couple questions from folks about that as well. Today's agenda, what I want to do is to talk about some of the news, just kind of updating you with regard to a couple of things. I actually got quite a number of questions emailed to me from folks about Clubhouse and its future and all of the various notoriety and acclaim that it's getting, and I wanted to kind of contextualize that. I want to spend a little bit of time just updating regarding YouTube and Instagram and some of their updates and a little Google News, and then I wanted to spend the majority of my time with you today talking about email marketing, really the state of email marketing, because MailerLite, which is my preferred email marketing software right now, they put out a really interesting email marketing benchmark report for 2020, and I want to walk through it and just talk out loud my thoughts just reviewing this and my experience with clients, what they've experienced over the past year, and how that might help you. So with that, let's get into the news. And there's just a couple of pieces of news that I wanted to make sure you're all aware of so that we are on the same page. So first and foremost, Microsoft has been in the process of deprecating and shutting down Skype for some time. And I think a lot of people are not aware of that. So I wanted to just point that out to everybody. Skype is shutting down. Skype for Business is going to be going away, which means that making outbound phone calls, taking phone calls via Skype for Business, that's all going to be sunsetted in 6 months. And this was announced, a while ago. I think, they announced this more than a year ago, maybe 2 years ago now at this point. And folks have just not been paying attention. So Microsoft Teams is going to be taking that part over, and they've now gotten all the functionality ready for that process to happen. So you can now make and receive phone calls from within Microsoft Teams, and the migration needs to happen. You need to make that happen. So if you are utilizing Skype for Business, just know that it is going to it's going to go away. And so the process is quite simple. The licensing structure is quite simple to understand, and just make sure that you are going through the process. If you have any questions, let me know, and we can kind of help out from there. Next up is, as I said before, I got quite a number of questions related to Clubhouse from my conversation before, from my episode last week, and I just wanted to explain kind of the context of things, and I thought this really summed it up. This Transistor blog post really helped me kind of contextualize it in just short order, which is this image here. And so Clubhouse, if you didn't listen to the last episode, hop back over there and listen to it. But just in brief, it is an audio group focused platform. So you're capable of doing social audio. And so it's a social audio network. There's no recording, and it gives you this space in which you can have these either intimate or very large audio conversations. And the way in which I see it is that this is a great opportunity. It's been getting a lot of notoriety. Elon Musk held one of his own Clubhouse events recently, and that got a lot of people to attend, and that's great. Celebrities always going to draw people to a platform. It is invite only currently. I have, I think, one more invitation that I can send. If anybody is interested, I can send it along to you. But I apologize if someone else beats you to it. So I only have that one invite left. So the goal here, though, is that it is currently Apple only. They are working on an Android application. It's invite only, and it's getting a bunch of notoriety. Really, at the end of the day, if you have the time, this is a one-to-one time scenario, right? So the network requires you to be live with other people, and for those other people to want to be live with you. So if your audience really values that component, then that's great. I will note here that I generally get far more podcast downloads of you all listening after the fact than you all joining me in the live stream. Now, I'd love for you to all to join me in the live stream anytime. Come to webandbeyondlive.com and you'll find out the most upcoming time. We are probably going to move back to Mondays at 11 a.m. Eastern because it works for me and it works for the majority of folks who do attend live, and it's a great way to start the week. So why not? But the reality is that the vast majority of people are going to listen on their own time. That's the power of podcasting, is that you can listen when you need to listen, when you are going to get value out of it. And Clubhouse is really about that real-time interaction, real-time engagement, and that's always going to be a capped approach to building an audience and fostering that audience. So Clubhouse has a space. I think that there's something good about it, except that you have established partners, established platforms in the ecosystem already doing this. Case in point, here goes Twitter Spaces. Twitter has already a Clubhouse challenger in process. And as you can see here, if you just look at this screen image, notice that the view of Twitter Spaces versus Clubhouse looks eerily similar. And the fact of the matter is that Twitter, it has hundreds of millions of users out the gate, ready to use this platform, and the likelihood is that Twitter Spaces will become, a big splash after they launch it, and maybe it'll stick around. Maybe they'll kill it off. I mean, they're killing off Periscope and leaving Twitter Live, of course, but the Periscope application's going away. And many times that happens. Google, of course, kills off applications and programs that it doesn't find is providing value to people, even if there's a smaller hardcore base of people who really love that particular application. They're going to kill it off if it's not really providing what they need it to. And that's the case. That's going to be the case with Facebook, Twitter, any of these major platforms. And so when you look at Twitter Spaces in its beta version against Clubhouse in its beta version, we really see the reality here, which is that if you have this clone built by a major social network, really what is the long-term value of Clubhouse? Maybe Clubhouse will be able to monetize in some unique way that will really keep it in its space. But Twitter Spaces is going to be caked into Twitter itself, and that means you'll be able to utilize Twitter by virtue of already having a Twitter account and being on Twitter. Twitter Spaces also gives you the ability to respond with emojis directly in the app. And of course, now Clubhouse knows this. They could potentially bake that into the ecosystem, into their application as well. And of course, Spaces in Twitter is going to allow you to be able to join in those conversations directly on Twitter, where conversations already happening for Clubhouse items. So it would be weird to not just do it in Twitter Spaces if you're already tweeting and having a conversation around this audio conversation. The final point for me, and I think this is really important, here on Twitter Spaces, they're going to be live transcribing those conversations, which means people who are not capable of having the audio play out loud and they don't have a set of headphones and they're in an office environment, they'll be able to read along in real time and engage in that conversation, even if they're not capable of audibly engaging in the conversation. Whereas Clubhouse, they are limiting both recording and they don't seem to have that live transcription capability. Maybe they can build it in, but the reality is that's not currently the case. So for really all of those reasons, I think that Twitter Spaces, once it does launch, right, it's in beta, they're testing it with a small group of users. Ultimately, I think they're going to be an interesting platform, but I don't really think they're going to have the largesse to be able to withstand a competitor like Twitter. That being the case, there's a really great article here about the Pacific Content on Pacific Content, which is a Medium blog. And from my perspective, I think that this is a time that if you want to be able to utilize Clubhouse as a small business, less so, this strategy is interesting, and you should read this article. I'll put a link to this in the description and in the show notes. And they really talk about it from a talk radio perspective. from Clubhouse events to some either lead magnet, what I call a valuable downloadable asset, something that's going to have them connect with you outside of Clubhouse by virtue of a call to action within the Clubhouse events. This removes the risk that if Clubhouse succeeds, great, people stay there. But if Clubhouse becomes a ghost town, like Google Plus did after Google shut it down, started the process of shutting it down because, people were not engaging on there enough. Well, I had a 3,000 person community on Google Plus, and when it shut down, you lose access to all of those people if you are not capturing all of the email and the contact information to be able to tell them, hey, everybody, we're moving elsewhere. And I think you need not to think about it from the perspective that, oh, you know what, well, I'll just post a message or I'll host an event and let them know at the end. Because by that time when it happens, then nobody's going back there. Nobody's coming back there. So you have to start from the very beginning and be collecting from that call to action in those Clubhouse audio sessions to capture their information from the get-go. So whether your group grows to, a large number later on down the road really doesn't matter, because if Clubhouse isn't going to survive, you want to make sure that you're collecting all of those people's email and or whatever, SMS, phone numbers, whatever that you're collecting along the way, so that you're able to communicate to them not just today, but in the future when it's too late to communicate with them in the Clubhouse environment. Okay, so that's going to be my recommendation. If you really feel like you want to jump onto Clubhouse and spend a considerable number of hours on that platform engaging, yeah, you'll have a first mover advantage in your vertical if you're able to get in front of that audience. So good. But the reality is that I don't really think Clubhouse has longevity, because they already have one major party who's gonna compete with them, and you better believe Facebook or Instagram is going to do something similar if they see any level of success here with Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse on the scene. And they're in the process of constantly developing in-house tools to be able to compete with the other social networks. Moving right along, I just wanted to make a quick note about YouTube. And so YouTube is finally implementing a clipping feature. And this is really unique and interesting. What the Clips feature is going to do, this is not to confuse people with Google Clips, which was a product that Google actually put out some time ago. Google Clips is dead. But YouTube Clips is a feature that allows you to be able to take a 5 to 60 second clip from any existing video and to share that as its own video link. And so it gets its own URL. It is capable of you being able to share the segment. It lives actually inside of the existing video. So say, for example, in this episode, I could actually go into YouTube and clip, say, 15 different 60-second clips. Each one of them I can title, so they're like their own little mini video, and share those individual clips with my audience on Twitter and other places to lead them back. This is right within my concept of having a great content marketing promotions strategy, where you're trying to promote what is a larger piece of content, or just a singular piece of content, by breaking them up into their smaller constituent parts and teasing people back to that content. So Clips gives us that feature now. It is currently being tested with a small group of users. YouTube will then scale that out and it'll be available to everyone. There are some limitations, live streams over 8 hours, live streams without DVR, kids content, for example, will not have clips, neither will Premiere videos, those kinds of things. There will be those kinds of limitations, but otherwise it'll be widely available to everyone, and there'll be a new section in your YouTube channel where you'll be able to see all of your clips and be able to share those clips from that point. It'll give you a little drop-down menu where you can click share. You'll get the URL and have that available to you. And so, as I said, it's 5 to 60 seconds in terms of video, so it's not a lot of video, but it's usually the right amount of video for you to be able to say, hey, this is the start or the part of the video that really covers this topic. You should go check this out. And I think that's just really a great addition. I wish we had a little bit more capability here to be able to have longer video, but again, people's attention spans need to be taken into account, and YouTube knows that. Although in this particular case, they kind of stole this feature from Twitch, and Twitch's uh, you know, clips lengths were 5 to 60 seconds. So they just kind of lifted that same data from them. So who knows why they chose 5 to 60 seconds, but we'll start to see. And they may adjust that amount, once they know how long people really do like to watch clips. And if everybody is trying to get more more length in terms of videos, in terms of creators on YouTube, or want to create longer clips, maybe they'll expand it just a little bit beyond that. I see myself having to create multiple clips where maybe I have a 5-minute segment in the show. I want to be able to say, no, I want you to listen to all of this. I can send a timestamped link that says, watch here and then watch to this endpoint. But with clips, it would be really nice to be able to say, okay, here goes 5 minutes of the video. This is going to cover exactly what you want to know. Here goes that link, and that would be really nice. But either way, this is a good first step. I'm very excited. I can't wait to get my hands on YouTube clips, and as soon as you do, let me know, because I really want to see it in action. I've seen the demos and that kind of thing, but I want to really see what other people are doing with it and how they're doing it. Next up, Instagram is working on a TikTok style vertical feed for stories. And so, as you can imagine, Instagram is hotly contesting TikTok, and they want to be able to continue to compete. And so they're going to just keep looking at producing feature by feature parity with those things, which of course means that bringing a vertical style story to the platform makes sense. So we're going to see more and more of this happen. Now, note that really, from what I've seen in terms of data and otherwise, Instagram has been competing directly with TikTok with the Reels feature for the better part of a year. And that really hasn't impacted TikTok's, kind of place in the market. That doesn't mean that I don't think TikTok really has great longevity in terms of competing with Facebook or Instagram as a dominant network. But I think it's going to fall into that space that Snapchat and Twitter and Pinterest fall into, which is they are here probably to stay unless we have greater problems with them legally, in this country or other countries around the world. But TikTok is probably going to survive. That's a good thing, and they will ultimately probably fall into that very niche market, and so you will have to look to see who those niche folks are, and of course, if those people stick with TikTok, they will age up as TikTok gets older. Those people who stay on TikTok will continue to get older, and therefore they will take over in some particular position over time. For example, Instagram started with a younger crowd set, right? The young 20 somethings who started on Instagram, and slowly but surely those millennials grew up, and they're using Instagram as their dominant social network. That potentially could happen with TikTok, and so we'll know only over the course of years. But I'm really curious to see that. I think it's still good that if you have a dominant audience on Instagram, now you have all of the features to do what TikTok is doing here on Instagram with Reels, and now even more with this new feature of the vertical feed. So no reason to jump ship on Instagram to TikTok just because you think that you're going to be able to get a greater audience. For most of these folks, they are actually on multiple platforms. They're on Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat at the same time, just for different purposes. So you have to garner their attention in the right ways, right? Hashtag strategies, making sure that you're, collaborating with other folks who are in and related to your industry, creating those marketing alliances on social to be able to really bring together the communities of people who may be on other networks, but you want to bring them together on your social profile of choice, on your platform of choice, and you could potentially go ahead and do that through those kinds of strategies. Just a quick note that Google Calendar now has offline support, and all I can say is hallelujah. So in what you can now do is, as a part of your Google Workspace account, and I believe this is coming to regular consumer accounts, but really I'm talking about Google Workspace, you can go into your Google Calendar settings, and under offline, under general settings, you're going to see now a new offline function, and you'll be able to turn on offline, which means that when you are not online, you will now see your calendars when you go to calendar.google.com or whatever your vanity URL is, like it's calendar.yourbusinessname calendar.com, you can now go to that calendar, and if you have it turned on, it will load, and you will be able to see your calendar events as of the moment you disconnected from the internet. So you're on a plane, train, and you are offline in some way, shape, or form. You are now capable of seeing those events. You can add events, move events around, and then when you reconnect to your internet connection, you will then synchronize those items with Calendar, and Calendar will then pull down any new items, move things around, and otherwise. The other item that you should know is that reminders and tasks are not part of that Calendar offline sync. So you will not see reminders and tasks inside the new Google Calendar offline, but I think it's a really great addition for those of us who do go offline. You want to go to someplace and you want to really just get some work done, and you want to make sure that you still know what's on your calendar for your next meeting, and otherwise you want to be able to open that up on the web and be able to see it. Okay, next up is I wanted to close out our conversation today with a little discussion about the state of email marketing for small business. And as I noted at the top, MailerLite put out their 2020 email marketing benchmarks report. They did it by industry. I wanted to walk through some of these numbers and talk out loud what it is that I think are really interesting and unique pieces here. So first and foremost, if we look at the top line numbers, they note that the 2020 benchmarks across all industries provide us with a little bit of information around email marketing generally. The average open rate is currently 25.35%. The average click rate, that is when someone clicks on an email inside of an email message, is 3.82%. That's the average click rate, is 3.82. The average unsubscribe rate is relatively low at 0.39%, which is remarkable. I thought it was going to be higher. Then the average bounce rate is 0.83%, meaning that someone is not getting the email at all because it is bouncing altogether. And so these are really interesting numbers. A quarter of all email sent is being opened. That's remarkable. 3 to 4%, 3.8%, 4% of those emails are being clicked through. So people are not just consuming those emails, they are also then doing the call to action that is being provided within those emails. Now, what that means is that if you do kind of the back of the napkin math there, you want to say, okay, well, if you have a list of, say, 1,000, or let's just use an easy number, 100, right? 25 people out of every 100 emails on average are being opened when you send them. And of those 25 people, then the 3% to 4% are actually clicking through to that, right? So 3% of that is roughly, 7 or 8 folks. 7 or 8 people are clicking on those emails. I'm sorry, 3% would be 1, 2, 3, 3 to 4 people are clicking through on those emails. So out of 100, 3 to 4 people are going ahead and clicking through. This is important to know in the sense that if you're trying to get a return on investment from your email, you want to really make sure that okay, well, if I'm going to get out of every 100 emails sent, I'm going to get 3 to 4 people who click on it. What is it most important to me that they do when they click on that email link, the link in the email, right? They opened it. What are they going to do once they get in there? Now, once we get down to the industry components, the industry items I thought was actually really interesting. So government, of course, wins out here in terms of industry, which I thought was rather, shocking to me, that people are really, more concerned about opening up their email from their governmental authorities, and their click-through rates are also the highest, and their unsubscribe rates are remarkably low. So, I mean, it's a good time to be government and sending email. So their open rates are a massive 39%, and this helps me contextualize. I run a small community for personal productivity enthusiasts, and I know that our email open rates are roughly about 38 to 39% ourselves. And so I'm glad to know we're up in that upper percentile. We sometimes get higher rates up to like 50%, and we don't send a lot of email, but when we do, it's to a very targeted audience, and so they do tend to open up the emails well, which again tells us a very clear story, which is that email is not dead. Email is around for the long haul, and you should be utilizing your email marketing strategy. You should have have an email marketing strategy and should be utilizing it. But the other side is that the more targeted the email and the more clear the call to action is in those emails gives you data that you can start making good data-driven business decisions on. That is, these are things that people will click through and do. These are things that people don't want to even open up in the first place because they see the subject line, they see it's from you, and it doesn't appeal to them. They're not hooked by subject line and or by your business. What can you do to increase the value of that? And can you potentially use, for example, I like to put what the value is in the email in the subject line, right? So get access to this important widget by opening up this email message. There's a clear value to now clicking on that link, because if I want that widget, I know that when I click on this email and open it, when I go in there, it's going to give me instructions on how to access that widget. And we want to make sure that we're doing that kind of work in our email campaigns. So as we make our way down, we can see that online courses actually commands a great 29% open rate. So this tells us also that digital experiences in small business is also quite competent in the email marketing space. Public relations has 29%, bloggers have 28%, photo and video has 28%. There's some really good stuff here. In the consulting world, we're still getting 26% open rates. I feel like that should be a little bit higher, but we're only seeing a snapshot of MailerLite's data alone, so there's likely maybe some skewing of the statistics here, but we can see that we start to see in the retail and health and wellness space and beauty and personal care some lower numbers. Now we're down about half that 39%, down in the 20s, and so from 40 to 20 in kind of the mid range for most people. As you can tell, you're going to get a lot of that numbers, but that helps you, right? If you are hitting higher than the standard for your industry, at say you get 24% open rates, you're beating the general market here in the general retail market by a percentage point, but you're also beating all of the other categories by 1, 2, 3% in terms of margin. So you're doing well. You're staying within probably the margin of error, and you're doing well in the sense that you're getting those kinds of opens. Of course, then the more important part here is you should be aware of your click-through rates, right? You want to make sure that when people open your emails, they are clicking through to where you are directing them. And this comes down to a major factor that I frequently see in emails, which is way too many links. You are giving people way too many options. Emails should be akin to lead pages. Lead pages, of course, are pages that are single-purposed, single-focused sales pages. They tell someone how to do one thing when they land on that page, and you provide them with the structure, the information they need, and the persuasive copy to be able to get them to do that thing. And so email should be very similar to that. You're not going to always have only one link, but generally people should be clicking on the call to action that you have in that email, and you should have as few possible calls to action in your email marketing email messages as possible. And so we can then start to see, okay, if you are getting the opens, but you're not getting the clicks from the email over to your site or over to a sales page or over to something that you want them to do, then you need to up the level of the value in the email and the calls to action being clearer for them. So this really helps us understand from an industry level, if you are e-commerce and you're getting under 2% clicks, then you know that you need to up your ante. You need to up the level of quality that you're providing and what is it that you can do. And that requires some creative brainstorming, but also thinking through the strategy. What's the full cycle of sales and marketing for the business, and making sure that you're implementing those pieces. So again, just like kind of recapping what they talked about here is, government, mobile, and manufacturing, they have the highest email open rates, and the lowest ones, of course, are daily deals and e-coupons, which tells us something very important, that people tend to tune out if you're constantly going after discount buyers. And this is a really important part for email marketing. People are looking for value. They're not looking for necessarily a discount on your products or services. And so often people think, okay, well, what is it that I can give people? Well, I'll just give them a discount on my services. No, you're putting money in somebody else's pocket, and that's likely your competitor's pocket. It's not even your customer's pocket. And it's not to say that discounting isn't appropriate at times, but there are ways in which you can give value for value as opposed to dollars for value when it comes to discounting. So you want to be able to give either more a la carte services and provide a la carte product opportunities, bundlings, so that you get a discount by virtue of spending more money. But frequently, these straight discount, straight coupon code items tend to actually reduce the overall profitability of the business, and they actually impact the overall return on investment in email campaigns. So you should probably avoid those. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me and I can give further guidance to your kind of specific situation. I thought this was really interesting. The other data in here is worth looking at in terms of other items, but I just wanted to kind of run through those pieces. They did give us some interesting items here, like how to improve your email success metrics. They talked about making sure that you are personalizing your subject line. I already talked about that, but in essence, your recipient name and your subject line, as well as any personalization of that email pre-header, where you see like that little snippet of what is going to be in the email, making sure those are compelling and hook people into that. If you want to increase your email click-through rates, making sure that you are segmenting your audience and sending specific personalized copy to those people and having a really clear call to action. It needs to have value. And then they give some other options there. I don't want to really get too much into the weeds here in terms of that, but I did want to share this email marketing benchmarks report with you and explain that really marketing is alive and well. It's a really important aspect of your overall sales and marketing strategy for your small business, and there's no wrong time to start doing this. Case in point, we are launching a new email newsletter, and we will put this on the website very soon. And we've just announced it to our email list. For all of these years, the 12 years of W3 Consulting, we haven't really sent an email except in the case of transactional messages, alerting people about billing issues, or letting people know about important things. We had a impact on our building. We had a building fire. We notified all of our clients we're all safe, everything's fine, nothing to worry about. Those kinds of big ticket emails. But we really haven't sent marketing email at all, and we're starting now, and we'll be very happy to start with a small email subset of our email list and expand and see if more and more people are interested in the content we're putting out and engaging people. Now that we have something that we actually want to engage people on, right, which is Web and Beyond community and our events and so on and so forth, we now have something that we want to be able to provide. And so you need to figure those pieces out as well, and then utilize them for being able to engage your particular audience. So if you have any questions about email marketing and the state of email marketing, feel free to post those on there. I'll maybe answer those questions in a future episode. We have new events going live on our website very soon. We've been a little backlogged because I've been very busy, and so I will be working with our team to get all of those events on the site. So if you have any questions, feel free to visit, not today, but maybe like the end of this week, maybe the early part of next week. If you go to w3cinc.com/events, you'll see all of the events that are there. If you are not already a member, go check out www.webandbeyond.community. We have a very small community right now, but I will be putting more events on there and creating more content on the Web and Beyond community platform, and really looking to grow different programs on the community for the community. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well. So go ahead and check out Web and Beyond community if you haven't already. That being the case, we've come to the end of our time together for this week, and I think I've done enough experimenting. We're just going to go back to Mondays at 11 a.m. Eastern. If you've enjoyed this live stream, please feel free to hit the thumbs up icon. That lets folks know that it helps us make new small business friends, and it lets folks know that you enjoyed it, and that helps me know you enjoyed it as well, which is really nice. If you have a question, leave a comment. You can also tweet at us at W3C, W3 Consulting. That is W3CONSULTING on Twitter and on LinkedIn as well. You can send us messages. You can join us now Mondays, 11 a.m. Eastern, unless I otherwise note. That's when we're meeting. Thank you so much for spending this Web and Beyond live with me. I'm Ray Sidney Smith on behalf of W3 Consulting and W3C Web Services. Have a great week ahead, marketing and managing your small business on the Web and Beyond.